Good afternoon, welcome to everybody to this TEDx style virtual reality webinar on levelling up principles and practice, which we at the Academy of Social Sciences with our campaign for social sciences are holding with Sage Publishing, and thank you Sage for your support for this. I mean, every single person on the call is across the notion of levelling up. And the more and I do think that social science is certainly what we know as social scientists is kind of so rich that I think the precondition for successful levelling up is policymakers, government, both kind of in our nations, central government, nations and devolved government, should take kind of the kinds of insights and evidence that we can marshal, really seriously. And what we've tried to do in the next kind of couple of hours is to get some leading social scientists, and thank you all for giving up your time, together with people who are actually kind of engaged in the practice of levelling up, either in business or in finance or in government, to kind of really put our heads together and see whether we can come up with something that may inform policy. Neil O'Brien, the levelling up minister, will be joining us later. We've had, and I had a call from Ben Houchen's office, who just a few hours back saying that he's involved in some key commercial negotiations in the Tees Valley and sadly can't join us. So I'm sorry about that. We'll get him there to speak on another occasion. I do think the challenge is extraordinary. As Adrian will set out in a second or two, GVA per head in London is nearly 80% higher than the rest of the UK. And that's a gap that is close to unparalleled in Europe and actually within the OECD. It's extraordinary. Successive governments have tried to address it, plainly not successfully. And it's to Boris Johnson's credit that he has raised the salience of it and pinned his colours to the mast. And his speech in Birmingham, where he actually kind of drew attention to differential life expectancy, differential life chances, was quite considerable. And actually his own kind of political commitment to doing something, I think, is to be welcomed. It's going to take longer than just his tenure in office. This is going to be a decade or 2 decade long project. And the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought that, of course, it's an economic program, but it's a social program, it's a political program, but it's also a growth program for Britain. There's no way you can lift trend growth rates in the UK and address issues like kind of stagnating life expectancy in parts of the country without kind of getting this right. And so it's in that lens or that perspective that we've kind of organizing this afternoon. There's 5 areas where I think there's 5 headings under which we can think about this: skills, innovation, finance, infrastructure, and structures of governance. And we're going to be addressing all of those in the next kind of 2 hours. The way we're going to do it is there'll be 4 speakers starting in literally about 30 seconds. Then we'll pause for questions and answers. So please put your questions and answers in the chat function and I will try and pick them up and put them to the speakers. Then we'll roll on with our next 4. And then another Q&A session. And then I've asked Neil O'Brien to wrap up the whole thing, his reflections on what he's been briefed on, and that we'll finish it with a hard stop at 18:30.